All right, welcome everybody to the second double feature of this season, which helps us catch up, and then we're on a regular schedule, so you don't have to feel like, man, he's bombarding me with so much episodes. But hey, we probably enjoyed this double feature because these movies were outright ridiculous. 3 and 4 did not get any better at all, and again, there wasn't any connection to any of it. So we're gonna be talking about if this leprechaun is the same one, or are we just dealing with doppelgangers, or he's just part of the multiverse and it's just a different version of him. But yeah, we're just gonna get to it because in reality, 3 and 4 actually lived up to the expectation that they were going to be pretty horrible. So let's go ahead and just kick it off. All right. So let's kick it off. So we're gonna look at the geographical locations of where this leprechaun has really traveled. So in the first movie, he traveled from Ireland to North Dakota to get his gold back. In the second movie, he just appeared in Los Angeles because hey, somehow the Ireland people picked the exact tree he was going to be in to give to Houdini. So what a load of chance on that one. And then now he's in Vegas, but he doesn't just appear in Vegas like someone taking his gold. Like, we don't get the whole backstory of how this guy who had him encased in stone got him. He just comes into the pawn shop to pawn him off, warns the guy not to take off, like not to remove the medallion, and then just gets his money and leaves. So he just randomly shows up now in Vegas, and now we have the other weakness, which we kind of talked about in the second one, where he was worried about, that's one of his weaknesses, but we never had seen it until now. So the crazy part about this is that the shop owner obviously doesn't pay attention to the warnings, takes off the medallion, and then, of course, the leprechaun comes alive. But the thing is that the leprechaun comes alive, goes away, and then so obviously the shop owner looks, says the statue's not here. Oh, but here's a pot of gold. And then the leprechaun gets mad that he has his gold. And it's like, this is where each time I look at this, I'm like, why are you getting mad when someone's looking at your gold when you just left it there? Like every time he's missing a coin, it's always because he's dropped it. The second one, he's done it. This one, he's done it again, right? So the second one, he dropped it. The other kid got it. And then he got super mad that he had it. And this one is kind of the same. He grabbed his gold and, warned the shop owner not to get the gold. And as he was leaving, he dropped the coin, and somehow he was just like, whoa, you got my coin, even though the guy never even grabbed it again. He was preparing himself to go get the more of the gold. And so again, we get this theory of him just protecting his gold, but yet he's always very loose at losing it, right? And again, the shop owner gets greedy, and we already know in any horror film, and I think in most any like film where like if the bad guy ever gets super greedy, you just know they're gonna die. So we already knew first person who was gonna get killed was the shop owner, right? And then one of the things that I thought was so ridiculous was, okay, we got to talk about his mythology, right? So in the second movie, obviously we got the friend talking about, like, if you capture the leprechaun, they're supposed to grant you 3 wishes, right? And obviously he was, you got to be careful with your wishes because they can kind of manipulate them. Simple tests like that, right? So, but now in this one, is if you have one of the coins, you can make a wish and it will be granted. But that means we're going from 3 wishes to 100 wishes because he always has 100 coins. Like, how is that any control? Like, who wrote this and said, hey, this is what we can do, and again ignored the other stuff that was already established? Like, seriously, writers, what were you thinking? Okay, but anyway, back to it. And then the other thing that was kind of ridiculous was in the second one, he was able to vanish and like reappear his gold, so he really didn't have to worry about hiding it. And then this one, he can't. He's just like, oh, I gotta hide it, and he hides it. And I'm just like, couldn't you have just done what you did before? But then again, is this the same Leprechaun that we saw in number 2? Because so far in number 1, number 2, they've exploded. The only one who said he was going to come back was number 2, or was number 1, sorry. And so, who are we dealing with? Is this like Leprechaun reincarnation, right? Did he just reincarnate again and start? Doesn't remember anything that he's done before. But anyway, going off to a tangent on that one. Okay, so now we're meeting like the kind of characters that are in here, and I think I felt most of the time as I was watching these stories of the guy helping the girl get to the casino and her helping her sneak in, the magician, the girl that works at the casino, the casino owner. I sat there most of the movie being like, I am wasting my time even knowing about you guys. Like, if you guys are gonna die, go ahead. Like, there is no reason for me to even care about what you guys are doing at all. Like, it was unnecessary buildup to him, like, to the connection to them. And so anyway, we got this whole story, and now we have this kid who's kind of the main ish character per se, other than Leprechaun being the main character. But now we got this kid who's going to, he's heading to Cali to go to college, and obviously the girl thinks it's ridiculous to go to college, but I'm guessing that's how it was back in the 90s. Like, why are you going to school? I don't know. Anyway, she makes fun of him, but then she helps him get into the casino. Now he wants to, he's always wanted to gamble because it's just always been so fascinating. And you know what? I have gambled before. Like, I'm not going to say, like, no, it's not as fascinating. But I did. I did. I mainly stuck to blackjack because it was a lot more of a mind game that I can kind of play. But when it came to, like, roulette and the craps, I didn't understand them. And the one time I did roulette, I lost $80 in one spin. So if you've never gambled before and you're like, what do you mean one spin? It's just basically this. You have a table where you pick numbers, colors black, I believe black, white, and then there's always a green, which is like the 00, which you have very low chance of it landing on it. If I guess they're not cheating, because if you look at the movie, she hits a button and the magnet somehow chooses a different number. But anyway, I had only $80. I chose all the numbers that I needed to, and then they spin where all the numbers are, and then they throw the marble, and then the marble kind of goes. Well, unfortunately for me, it landed in the green, meaning everybody on the table lost, and I was just like, never again will I do that. So anyway, that's kind of just how it was. And this kid, I think, if he also did the roulette table, and obviously he lost. Like, immediately, $23,000. One, I don't know who in the world would do that, even though I've seen people, like high rollers, as I've gone into casinos, just pour down money like crazy. And I'm just like, how can you do that? Like, so much of a risk. So this kid used, I guess, his tuition money, and he's like, I'm going to just gamble this. And that's where we kind of get to how he starts connecting into him being like how the Leprechaun starts connecting with all these other characters. He loses all his money. They tell him, go to the pawn shop and maybe you can pawn your grandfather's watch and then come back and try to win your money back. So then he goes, and finds the shop owner dead. and then he finds the coin. But the weird part is that he doesn't even know that the coin has magical powers at all. He just hears like the computer say like, well, if you have a coin, you make a wish and it will be granted. But yet, how would he have known that the coin he found is the one that grants the wish? That's that's where I'm just like, again, like this is just chance. Like all of a sudden, it just happened to be that he grabbed it and he looked and he just said, well, what if I just make the wish? And then it just happened. And he doesn't click that the coin is it until later on that they start realizing that, oh, if you have the coin, you can make a wish, right? Well, he makes the wish, goes back and starts winning his money. Now, pause before he starts even winning his money. We now have this storyline of the magician, and I 100% look. Magic it is all part of an illusion. It's kind of distracting what like the viewer to see the unseen, and that's how kind of it works. But I believe his act would have been a lot better if he actually spoke rather than just being a jerk or just kind of doing the cheesiest movements. I think that's the only reason why his act sucked, because after when he makes his wish to be the best magician, he's talking, he's like feeding to the crowd, and that's what makes his act better. And I'm just like, well, why didn't he do that in the beginning? He didn't need the wish, he just needed to have better charisma. But anyway, we meet him, who's obviously a struggling magician, and so then now we get him involved because the kid won a lot of money, and I honestly I had no interest in remembering how much money he won. But the girl that was like kind of like teammates with the magician who was there losing the money, told him, "Hey, we got money. Like we got, I think it was like 100,000." Well, anyway, like again, I really didn't care. Well, she says, "Hey, go sneak in his room, get that, and get a coin that I want." Again, she doesn't even know what the coin is, but she just wants the coin. Well, he goes in, gets at least the coin, but doesn't get the money. And then in comes the leprechaun, finding his coin because he realized that now the kid has it, bites the kid, and then, the kid stabs him, and then blood gets on the wound. And then all of a sudden, we have this kid starting to turn like a leprechaun. Like what is this? Like The Walking Dead? Are we talking about zombies here? And then that brought me into the question, well, why didn't the dad who got bit become a leprechaun? Was it the fact that blood got into the wound that started to make him kind of convert into a leprechaun? Or was it the bite? Because the dad got bit and we didn't see the dad. So what if the dad this whole time was just struggling in the hospital with him trying not to turning into the leprechaun, and everyone's like, what's going on? And then after he blew up, that's why he showed up at the end, because he was like, oh, I'm all better now. Right? Again, they probably didn't think about that. But I thought it was just so ridiculous that the bite and I'm guessing the combination with the blood is the one thing that started making this kid start turning into a leprechaun. And only because the whole folklore thing on the computer, on the pawn shop owner's computer, was saying like the most dangerous thing is having two leprechauns together, like they're gonna fight for the gold. And so when I realized when he started turning, I was like, oh no. See, like, are we going to follow everything that folklore video says because it randomly was given and or the shop owner randomly had it? uh, and so now we have him coming to get his coin, and it's bouncing off to everybody. And each person who has made a wish, other than the kid, because he got bit, and so obviously he was becoming a leprechaun, and so I guess he wasn't meant to die. But anyway, everyone else who came in contact with it, so the one girl that was with the magician, even the casino owner, all of them died, right? In the dumbest ways possible, 100% dumbest ways possible. If you can like get a list of what dumb ways could you die, these were all the dumbest ways. She wished to be beautiful again. So the leprechaun, well, when I say she, I'm talking about the one who was with the magician. Then he ends up like inflating her like liposuction. I don't know, any injections, whatever you can call it, and then blows up. And the magician gets basically sawed in half, and we get like this whole American Horror Story type of freak show scenario here, but a lot more cheesy, and it really didn't. It wasn't like oh no, it was just like not this again. And then the shop owner, or not the shop owner, sorry, the casino owner ends up dying through an illusion. And he just gets shocked, and then the other people that were, I guess, they were bookies again. All these storylines had nothing, like there was no investment in them, and then other people just got killed on the way. So that was basically it. Just anybody who was there just died. And we get to the end, and it may sound that I'm rushing this, and if it does, it's because that's how ridiculous this was. Like, you can sit here and spend an hour and a half watching the movie and be like, I just wasted all my time. So basically, what we're discussing is basically the whole movie. We get to the end. One of the things to destroy him again is, of course, the 4-leaf clover, the medallion that no one ever grabbed. Well, she kind of grabbed because when the kid that was kind of turning into a whatever leprechaun zombie or whatever you call it was like, get that away. And so in her mind she said, okay, this could help, but they really never used it at all. But then the other thing is destroying the gold, and then you by destroying the gold you can also use the gold to destroy him. And so that's what they do, right? At the end, they're at kind of like this stand in or stand up or whatever. They're just gonna fight him, and then this kid grabs a flamethrower and just puts it on the pot of gold, and then he blows up, and the money is destroyed. And I just sat there being like, okay, I don't want to be too scientific on this. I get it. It was 1995. I don't want to really push this whole accuracy into this movie, but I know for a fact that flamethrower would not have melted the gold enough to be destroyed. Like it needed a lot more heat. It just needed so much, and maybe it's because I have met people who do all this type of what do you call it, metal work, and they've created things, but they always tell me that it has to be at a certain degree for specific metals to actually melt and become liquid, and that flamethrower wouldn't have done it. So I just sat there being like, are you going to really destroy it? And it happened. Obviously they had to just somehow kill him, but yet the girl ends up coming up at the end and saying, look, I have a coin. Do you want to make one last wish? I can make one and we can be all happy. And he's like, no, it's not worth it. And I just sat there and I'm like, wait, then how could he have blown up if there was one coin still left? Technically, it's like all or nothing, right? Like if one is not destroyed, he can come back. But yet again, we don't get that because the next chapter, he's in space. And so the third one, we ended again kind of like the second one, where it was just like, hey, look, we got one coin. Would you want to do something? And they're like, nope, it's not worth it. And then they just live happily ever after and kind of walking away because he's blown up. And I'm like, okay, why is he always dying in the end of these movies? Like, I get it, he's the bad guy. But like the first one, at least, it would have made a lot more sense of his resurrecting if people were finding his gold, and that's the reason why he's coming back. But the fact that he's just appearing out of nowhere is what I think is just made this series probably the dumbest of all horror movies ever. And again, this is not a disrespect to Warwick Davis, who is probably the only one that has continued on with who made this franchise. I'm not sure if he wrote it. I'm not sure if he kind of helped it, but hey, actors got to do what an actor's got to do to get paid, and he got a gig, and this gig lasted all the years, right? That we started off was 93, number 2 was 94, then this one was 95, and then Leprechaun 4 in Space is 96. So he had a gig every year, so he was getting paid. So no disrespect to the actor, because again, he does what he can with his script that is given to him, right? And the direction of the director. So whoever got chosen to do all this, it's all on you guys. But this is like the worst. And so before we get on to how number 4 really brought it to the more extreme of ridiculousness, we're going to take a little break, and then we will be right back. All right, so we are back and loving number 4 and if you can't hear my sarcasm in that, I was probably more disappointed in number 4 than anything, because I was thinking that this was gonna follow kind of Jason in space type of scenario, and we're gonna hit those movies, which is Friday the 13th and all this stuff, but later on. But just know that Jason is an entity. He was a kid who died during camp. Mom started killing everybody. Then there was a ritual. I'm not sure if the mom did the ritual, but anyway, he started coming back to kill. Well, there's a moment in time in one of the movies where the people come, I think they grab something from Earth that is no longer habitable, so that's why they're just coming to grab samples, and they find Jason's body, and then that's kind of how he just comes to life, and then just starts killing everybody, because that's what he does, right? That's a normal 80s slasher movie. That's just how it turned out, and I believe that was probably done in the 90s. Again, we'll get to it when we get to it. But this again had nothing to do with hey, I found his gold, and now this leprechaun's coming in. There was actually 100% no mention that he was a leprechaun in this whole movie. He was just a creature. He was just an alien life form in this planet, that it was his planet that was covered in, like, all the caves were gold, like, conveniently. And again, and on this one we get the fact that that now he has stolen a princess to then wed. And it's funny because at the beginning the princess was like, I'm not gonna wed you, you're ugly, you're nothing, and blah blah blah, and this and that, and la la la. And then he's like, well, I know your dad wasted all his money, and so you have no money, and guess what? And then he shows them his gold. It's like, I got money. And she's like, well, yeah, that's okay. And I'm like, how big of a gold digger do you have to be to marry the dude? Like, 100%. Warwick Davis, without makeup, very handsome man. But when they had to put it like the whole Leprechaun was gross, and she's just gonna be okay because of money. Like, I'm like, values. That was 96. But anyway, we get the worst graphics that you could ever imagine, like the worst of the worst graphics. And maybe maybe they didn't have the budget to do it, but you could 100% tell that they were. It was just. That's how terrible it was. I can't even tell you how terrible it was. That's how terrible it was. Anyway, it was 96, so we're not even going to get to the part of it. And then we meet this Marines that, again, there's no build up to them. I really don't care. Their storyline has nothing to do with any of it at all. They're just there to do a mission. You get this one guy who has like half metal on his head, and I'm like, how 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 is he even alive, right? And they tell him his story, and they said that like in one of the last wars, his skull was blown off, like that the whole skull was blown off halfway, and he still was able to carry someone to safety. And I'm like, there is no way he could have actually lived at all. Like, there's got to be something up. And again, this was so ridiculous. I'm just gonna tell you, like, we end up finding out he's a cyborg or he's a machine, which makes total sense because there's no way an actual human could have survived his head being blown off halfway and done that. Like, maybe he could have had the adrenaline, but there was no way he would have survived at least the whole aftermath of this. So now they get to this, to try to find this mythical, or not mythical creature, sorry, this alien, right? This alien life form creature, to kill him and then get whatever they needed to get, which I'm guessing, if I remember, was maybe the princess, because so far they didn't really mention that they were trying to get the princess. They were trying to get something else. Like, I think he was stealing mining materials or all the like mining stuff, so all the gold per se. And so I think that's why they were after him. But then they go there, and obviously we're following the same suit of Star Wars. And if anybody's a fan of Star Wars, I'm meaning any offensive, if anything possible. I hope you just have thought about this when it comes to the time, because I'm not even sure it's ever explained. But they land to this planet, and they're just able to like walk in, breathe it like nothing. So, and that's just exactly how Star Wars is. Like, somehow they can go from planet to planet, and hey, it has breathable air for everybody, right? Congrats, wow, right, right. So anyway, and then we get kind of a Star Warsy vibe at the beginning, because the first death within like 14 minutes, within 14 minutes they kill him. But like when he kills the first Marine, he like pulls out like a laser sword and like stabs him and murders him. And I'm just like, what is, like, is he a Sith? Is he in Star Wars? Am I watching the wrong movie? Like, did we just cross different universes, and all of a sudden now we're watching this? Like, where's the Jedi? Are they gonna come and get him? Like, that was the ridiculousness of this movie. And then they kill him. They blow him up, he lands on a grenade and then blows up, and everyone's like, yeah, we killed him. And I'm like, well, okay, cool, movie's over, we're done. And obviously they get kind of greedy, because they're like, hey, take all the gold. But then this dude, one of the Marines pees on him, and then all of a sudden, like, you see his head wink, like coming back to life, kind of like Terminator, but it was a lot worse. It ended up being out of like Alien, but not scary like Alien. It was just more like this guy was about to get it on with the girl, and then all of a sudden the leprechaun pops out of his penis. It made no sense how he came. Like, there was no connection other than like when he was peeing on him, he like felt a shock, and it was like, what, is that somehow the way that you were gonna come back? Anyway, so then that's how he gets on the ship. But this whole time he's not after his gold. Remember, he's starting to kill these people mainly because they took the princess, because supposedly she was gonna stay with him because of the money. And so the whole time we're watching this, we meet like the worst acting of I guess a Russian person, right? The leader, who I already knew was a cyborg. Like, the way he talked and all that stuff, we already knew he was just terrible. And then we just get, this other scientist who's very cringy. Like, seriously, who's about to molest the sleeping woman? And the other guy was about to watch. I think he wasn't going to do anything, but until the other guy got sidetracked about her regeneration. and then wanted to try it on him. And then all of a sudden, like, we get this leprechaun who is, again, he's not a leprechaun. I don't know if I should even call him a leprechaun in number 4, because again, he's an alien life form. But anyway, we get him going off killing all these people, asking them, like, hey, where's the princess? Where is she? Not even knowing that they had taken his gold, or not even wondering about his gold at all. And then they go into a place, like a location that supposedly the one doctor, no, not the molesting one, but the one girl doctor, says, hey, you can't go there without a suit because it has like some like bacteria that will kill you. And so they end up going into that place. But yet, how did this alien life form, leprechaun, whatever, know he also needed a suit? Right? He had a suit, and I was just like, how did he know? Like, there was no way he knew, unless he just somehow knew that that's what you do in that room. I don't know. I when I saw him in a suit, I'm like, how did he know? How did he know? And it must have been super toxic, because he just cuts the one guy's suit open, and he just like burned up. I was just like, it was just, it was so dumb. And then, of course, everybody just dies, except, this. This is the first movie though that you thought the black character died, and he actually doesn't. He survives at the end. So applaud to whoever wrote it, because holy cow, you guys kept the black character alive. Most movies, and you get parodies off of this. We'll also include all these like parody horror films, like Scary Movie and stuff like that. But even in Scary Movie and then these other like movie like horror films, they've always started like making fun of it, that, oh no, if you're black, you're gonna die first, or if you're like Asian, like if you're every other ethnicity but white, you're gonna die first. And I'm gonna be 100% honest. If you start looking at those movies and you kind of notice who dies first, you're like, yeah, they're 100% right. So on this one, hey, you thought the brother was gonna die, he survived. So congrats on that. But again, everybody just died for dumb reasons, other than being ordered to kill him, and then him coming to kill everybody just to get the girl. He gets the girl and saves her, but then finally, after, I don't know, like almost an hour and 10 minutes of the whole movie, he remembers, oh wait, what about my gold? So luckily he was able to find his gold, which they made it super small. So he got super angry about that. And then by accident, the scientist makes him larger. And so now he's out here just trying to find this other dude, which I thought was so dumb that he got scratched. And so then he had to take off his shirt. And I just sat there like, why'd you have to take off your shirt? There was no reason for you to take off the shirt. But then in the end, they just pulled off an alien. And when I say an alien or the alien, one of the movies called Alien, I think it was like Alien 2 or 3. But there's one where they're trying to get rid of the alien. And then the one thing that they do is that she uses the acid that they have to open up a window, and it sucks the alien out. And that's basically what they did. They didn't really break something. They just got him locked in. Like they were able to leave the room, and then open the room, and then he just kind of exploded in space. But he wasn't dead, because at the end he was still able to flip them off. So he's gonna live again? I don't know. We'll see how 5 and 6 come around to it, but we're not gonna see it till next year for St. Patrick's Day. So we don't have to worry about having to sit through crappy movies at all after that. But again, we had no investment on any characters from both 3 and 4. I think in any of them, because even this guy, the Leprechaun alien, whatever, sticks. He makes this whole concoction and sticks it to the mitten, whatever the leader was, right? Who's a cyborg, and then he dies. But then all of a sudden he regenerates as a spider, and the only thing he says is, "I want flies. I want flies." And I'm like, okay, this has nothing to like. He ended up dying the Terminator way ish, kind of, right? They froze him up and then they just shot him once and he just exploded, and that was it. That was it. There's no reason to have that. That's like, why are we dealing with so multiple different type of creatures? Like, you had your first alien leprechaun creature, and then all of a sudden this other creature, and so now they have to deal with him. But I guess whoever wrote it thought that's exactly what what you have to deal with when you're in space, right? You're not only dealing with this other alien life form, you're dealing with what can be created within a location in your own spaceship. Anyway, it ended with the normal classic. The ship's about to self-destruct, and then they were able to find the code 1 second before it exploded. So that's also parodied throughout every place that you can think of. Where I think the best one who shows it, it's oh my gosh, it's the one with Tim Allen. I am drawing a blank, and I'm gonna find it right now. But the one with Tim Allen, where they play like Star Trek characters, but it's not Star Trek. And then when they are in the actual location, they find out that these other life forms created the actual like ship and everything and brought them over to help them defeat someone else. Well, they get to a point where they have to turn something off, and when they press the button, it's not turning off until it hits like 1 second. And they're like, why did it wait till 1 second? They're like, oh yeah, because in the show it always waited till 1 second. And I thought that was the most accurate thing to think of when it comes to thinking of those type of scenarios, right? Like, so they had to wait for that moment, that 1 second. I found it, Galaxy Quest, actually made in '99, and even Galaxy Quest had a lot. I feel like it still had its kind of difficulties when it comes to CGI, but again, it was in the '90s, but not as bad as this movie. No, 100% not as bad as this movie. But there you have it. That was both 3 and 4. I double featured it. It wasn't so long because there was no investment at all in anybody, and I have repeated that so much because I want you to understand there was no reason for anything else. He didn't even go after his goal until the end, and it wasn't even like, I'm gonna murder everybody because they took my gold. It was just more like, I'm killing people, and then be like, oh yeah, my gold, right? That was it. And then he ends up dying like Kenny in South Park. So he's gonna show up again in 5 and 6. I want to figure out how he shows up, because number 5 is called In the Hood, and number 6 is called Back to the Hood. So hopefully whoever wrote that made a connection of how he returned back to the hood, but we will see that next year. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, because I enjoyed the ridiculousness of it, but I did not enjoy the movies. They were so dumb. They really had no scare factor at all. So if someone's like, hey, let's watch a scary movie, like, oh, I found Leprechaun, you are not going to be scared at all. You're going to sit there and be like, am I watching a Goosebumps movie? Am I really sitting here watching this Disney horror special, right? Spooky special? Like, it wasn't scary at all. And very ridiculous. And everything that the Leprechaun said was just dumb. They forced rhymes that didn't need to be there, but they had to do it because I guess that's leprechauns rhyme all the time. And so far, when I've looked at folklore, as I tried to study a little bit of Leprechaun, never said that they like rhyme all the time. But I guess in this one they had to try to make him rhyme. Except in the fourth one, he didn't really rhyme too much. But in the first like three, he always had to rhyme. Anyway, again, no continuity. The only continuity that we had this whole time was Warwick Davis, and I thank him for all his work that he did as an actor and that he's done as an actor. But yeah, I think that's the only thing. That's the only way we know that he's the Leprechaun. But we don't know if it's all the same at all. But anyway, stay tuned. We are done with our Leprechaun, or what do you call it, St. Patrick's theme for March. And so now we're going to be heading, it's not going to be, now if you thought I was doing like every month, I tried, but then I realized it was just going to be too difficult to do every month because there's not a lot of horror films that do month by month. Like there's not a May, there's not really a June. So I kind of, now the next part off, it's going to be a lot of like summer and school themes that we're going into. And we're kicking it off with Willy's Wonderland. So stay tuned. That will come out on our regular schedule on Sunday. So now expect all of these to come out every Sunday at 10 p.m. And so that way you're not 10 p.m. That sounds too late for you guys. 10 a.m. So that way you guys can enjoy your good old Sabbath day per se, listening to the podcast and us discussing all these horror films. So I will see you guys next time. And thank you so much for actually riding with me to catch up with all these movies that we had passed. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to the ridiculousness of all these movies. But you guys did it, and we did it. We made it through it, and we made it through. We caught up, and now we get to enjoy the rest of the year doing what we do best, is giving you great content. So, love you guys, and see you guys next time.